we have, in fact, I still have preliminary there I need to get rid of. But the amount of money we have in TIF that our share we kept, $467,221.13. At this time, we are splitting the taxes paid by Blue Sky West in half. They pay the state the full amount. The state then sends us a check for the full amount. We keep half that. We send half of that to Blue Sky West. So we have this broken down in percentages, but they're basically meaningless. We can spend these funds on any of these categories. These are the categories that the lawyers created. They went through the state approval, so the percentages, 25 and 5 in various lines, is subjective. We can change that anytime we want to. So that's the first one, that's the wind. That's one we've had for quite a number of years now. I think 8 years or 9 years, I forget which. I think 8. Any questions on that TIF agreement and budget?
How much leftover funds do we have from previous TIF?
I'm gonna just pull up Patrick's.
Just in rough numbers, is it?
Yeah, it's just written in here. I didn't highlight this on like I usually do.
$1 million including the.
$1 million plus?
Yeah, it's $1 million basically with counting our loans.
Yeah, we have.
We have $705,000 of cash sitting in the account right now.
Good, thanks.
Actually, that includes this because this is money we already have in hand. Let me rephrase that. This amount we have in hand because this amount was 2025 amount. So our current budget. We don't know what we're going to get next year. It depends on how the mill rate changes.
We've already gotten this money.
Right, this we've already got.
And this,
So-
taking with the other stuff, amounts to $750,000 plus the $300,000 we've lent out
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is an estimate for 2026, so we just use this year's amount to estimate for next year's
Okay,
budget.
thanks.
That's what that is.
You know,
Sometimes
the
I forget
percentage is
that.
basically the same too, from last year to this year, because I noticed like on number 4, public safety costs, it's a big number.
Yeah.
It's 25%, was it basically about the same last time? Or
Yeah,
are
last
we
year-
anticipating something else?
Last year, we funded the expansion of the fire station in Rockwood, partially out of TIF. So I think that's why I put a 25% there. This year, it doesn't have to be, just kind of, we can, like I said, we can change this anytime we want to.
You know where the Rockwood Fire Department is?
Just on the other side of Jackman.
Close.
No, we went up.
You need to go for a
It's a
ride
good
with Skip
side.
and have him be your co-pilot.
We saw our sign said, "Welcome to Jackman."
Yes, sir. All right.
I was gonna say, the perfect answer would have been in Rockwood.
I knew what he
Okay.
was getting at.
Yeah, I figured you did. The second TIF budget we have is for the NECEC corridor. We got our first check for that this year, and I've used that amount against the 2026 budget, and we got $193,910.73. I don't know if that's a partial payment or if that's a full year's payment.
That's a full year.
That's a full year. So it should be relatively the same next year. It should actually go up a little bit because the corridor, I don't think is in operation yet. Not all the poles are up. So when they put more materials into this corridor, the value should increase. But that's the check I received this year, so that's the amount I've used for 2026. Again, lawyers put this together, they put in all the statutory citations, and the percentages, just whatever fit. As long as it added up to 100 at the 100% at the bottom, I was pretty happy. But like last time, we can use the money in any of these categories. They've all been approved by the state, so we're good to go there.
No, I made a note.
Any questions on this one? No. All right. Then we have the UT budget. There's been a few changes here, which I will kind of highlight for you. The amount at the bottom hasn't changed much, but I did write down a few notes. One of the changes between this year and last year was in the revenue department. We have a line that says transfer, inter-transfer. That we haven't used as a line. What I'm using it for now is the undesignated fund balance. That always used to be added in at the very bottom because it's a revenue, so it lowered our budget. But we've moved that up into the revenue, so that 185,000 is actually the undesignated fund balance that would normally appear at the bottom. So other than appearing in a different location, it doesn't make any changes. One change we have is at the very bottom of revenue is miscellaneous other revenue. We had 175,000 last year, and we're not doing anything this year. Last year, the 175 was actually money that the sheriff had in his account from collecting UT funds through several years that were unspent. So last year we put it in there, and we probably shouldn't have, because what we've done this year is we have not included the revenue. All we've done is lowered the cost of the sheriff's department. As soon as I get down here to this one. Law enforcement line, last year was the full amount at $341,906, and they basically gave us money back, and then we, use that in revenue under miscellaneous revenue. This year, we're not going to include it at all. It's going to be handled by the county budget versus the UT budget. So sheriff's funding is $211,836 this year. You can see the decrease. So we didn't need to include his revenue up top. So just moving things from one pocket to another, everything to balance out properly.
Keep us off that.
Yeah, well, I was checking with Patrick today, going like, do we need to put this? And he goes, no, it's going to be handled properly by the county budget when you guys do that.
I got a stupid question, as always, Dave. The biggest number there in revenue is $215,000 for excise taxes.
Yes.
What's that?
Excise tax is anybody in UT, if they buy a car,
Yeah, but I
buy
just,
snowmobile, boats.
we're generating that
Sure.
much income from excise taxes in the UT every year.
Yes,
I
and
wouldn't have thought it was that big a number.
Yeah, we're actually below some of the other counties in their UTs. They have a higher tax value than we do in that line.
Just the town of Madison, 4,500 people generated $1 million in excise taxes.
Yeah. Well, I guess when you put Lexington and Rockwood in the actual town.
Yeah, Rockwood's a big one because not only do you
Throw a
have,
logging truck or two in there, and
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
brings it in quick.
yeah, you get some of the heavy equipment, harvesting timber and whatnot, and absolutely. All right, let's see, capital funds. Let's get down into capital. Capital, okay, buildings. Last year under buildings, we had $112,000 for building repairs and maintenance and such. That was mainly the Rockwood Fire Station because we had to pay in front of the new bay, and we need to do some roof repairs also. We got the paving done, and we did not get the roof done yet. So the money to fix the roof is still in the capital account. So we did not need to fund that line again for the same repairs. So we lowered it from 112,000 down to 10,000. So that should take care of whatever new comes up, because these capital lines generally carry funds in them from year to year. So I funded it a lot last year. I didn't need to fund it as much this year. Capital roads, of course, are our largest expense in the budget. Let's see. Other line is admin, which is back up here. Admin services are money that the UT budget pays to Somerset County county itself for support services. To the UT office is supported by many of the workers here in the county, including Tim, Patrick, Tracy, and several others that do work for the UTs, whether they do our warrants or they do our balances and things like that. And we are allowed up to 5% of the UT budget to go back to the county. And we've been quite a bit below the 5% in years past. Last year, our current year, we funded $58,000 to pay for these services with the county. We got together, Tim, Patrick, and I, and we've increased that to $85,000 going to the county for the services. It's just a shade under the 5%. It's like 4.9 something. So that was actually the largest increase from our preliminary.
So when you get into the typical county budget and you look at the commissioners section, where their revenue line is for that commissioners, traditionally it's been about $58,000. That's where that's come from. So you'll see that jump from 58 to 85 when you look at the commissioner's budget. So that revenue's all coming from UT support.
Yep. So, we've got basically all the numbers in. Jackman ambulance is quite a bit different. Last year was $40,000, this year $5,000. That was because last year Jackman was buying a new ambulance, and we are, through a formula, a certain percentage of the cost of the ambulance service, kind of goes back to the UTs, because they serve all the UTs around them. So our share of the new ambulance was, I think, $35,000, and we paid that earlier, actually last year. And they won't need another one quite so soon, so we're back to just the operating costs for the ambulance. $5,000 a year is basically our share. And if they have a good year, then there are no charges. But we can't rely on that.
Yeah.
So I just put in the $5,000 that usually will cover all of our expenses through that ambulance service.
So, who pays for the insurance, the property insurance on the community building in Rockwood?
We do. We have a line for the insurance.
Where is that?
It's down in Rockwood.
Oh, it's in the Rockwood, okay.
Yeah, building liability insurances. So it's line insurance
Yeah.
under.
5540.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5540. So that's where the insurance is down there.
Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, when you get to the bottom of this list, and we made the changes we made, we're looking at a 5.06% increase from last year. Fairly reasonable. Our growth, I did pass out a worksheet on the tax assessment limit. And for 2026, our tax assessment limit was $3,140,396. And our budget now is $2.8 million. So we're about $278,000 below the tax assessment limit. Our tax base grew 6.8% between the property value and the income growth, 6.8%, and we are raising ours 5.06. So our budget is increasing less than the growth, which is, I consider, always a good thing. Are there questions on this?
Do we have any towers or other equipment that needs to be insured that's in the UT?
To be insured, did you say?
Yeah, that needs to be insured. Towers or,
Any towers are being insured, if they belong to the county, they're being insured by probably communications. Maybe EMA, one or the other, Mike would know. But we do not, through the UT, insure any towers.
It's through the common center.
Comm center, okay.
Can you refresh my recollection and explain what is the the acronym LRAP?
Oh, Local Road Assistant Program. It's always been called URIP in the past, which was,
That sounds like,
it comes from DOT. Depending on how many roads we have, they give us a certain amount of funding to take care of the roads. We have quite a few state roads that we plow for the state. They don't hire plowers themselves, contractors themselves. They work through us on some of the roads, such as Route 16 through Mayfield. That's one of the state aid roads. 151 is state aid. So that's part of where that money goes.
let's look at the back page here. Some of this, the revenue on this state format budget, that doesn't really match up with the revenue that we have on this page.
It's broken down differently, but the total revenue should be exactly the same.
Okay. Oh, I see, because of the,
Yeah, they used to send out a worksheet, Nancy used to send out a worksheet, and I always filled that out, and that's what I had you sign. We often reviewed it in the county format, which is all that colorful stuff before there. But this, Nancy passed away.
So the difference, Commissioner, is the 185.
yeah, does that make,
They
okay.
brought up,
Yeah,
It says in its fund balance sheet.
yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I do a lot of double checking to make sure numbers match up. Because if you don't, you run into
Okay.
problems.
How are the roads after this last storm? Any problems or anything?
Haven't heard of anything.
No?
I talked with Cindy Fergalon up in Rockwood, and they have like 4 inches of snow on the ground, more coming, and they're still thinking about going out and doing some more ditching, but I think they're probably done any road maintenance for the year. Depending on what comes up, they may go do a little bit more, but most people have got their plows on, that's their main concern, getting the roads plowed.
How much did the large sale of land impact the budget?
If I remember right from the email I sent out, it's 0.67% of the, I can't remember if that was the taxes we collected or the tax base, I forget which. But, I mean, it has an impact, if I remember right, $49,000 that we would normally, or the state would collect in taxes. If they go all tax exempt, then that will be a loss, net loss to the state. I haven't heard, I assume they'll probably go tax exempt, but not every agency, like the Nature Conservancy, owns a lot of different pieces of land in Somerset County. Some of their land is tax exempt, but others they pay tax on. And they do give us a check, they've done it for about 4 or 5 years now, as payment of lieu of taxes. It varies and it's getting smaller, but they're still giving us money, so.
When you
As
say,
everybody else's property taxes are going.
when you say us, they give that to the county or the Maine revenue?
No, county. We get the check directly.
Or Dave.
How about the Passamaquoddy land up there? The Indian land holdings up there, do they pay taxes like everybody else, or is that?
What was that?
Is there any difference in taxation for the properties held by the Penobscots and the Passamaquoddies?
Yes. Doesn't exist as far as Maine government goes. It's a federal controlled. We get absolutely no money from any tribal land. Any building on it, I cannot access to assign it E911 address numbers.
And this is all the property acquired pursuant to the money from the Land Claims Act?
This would be the tribal land, Passamaquoddy and other tribes. We have quite a bit in the county, but we, as a county government and as a state, since CUT, we have no say in anything that takes place there. Prentice is a township that, when I first started this job in 2003, I assumed it didn't have any houses or camps or any buildings in it. Then I drove through it, and there's one over here, there's a whole bunch over on this pond, there's a bunch here. I'm going, what's the story here? Why aren't these on the tax records? And lo and behold, tribal land. So I couldn't even assign addresses to it, I didn't have any authority to do so.
So Dave, of the 49,000 that was going to the state, what would be our share of that, roughly?
not sure I can answer that. I know they collect a lot more money in taxes than we get to operate our services in the UTs.
It would actually, what was the reduction in your valuation? Because it's gonna cause the mill rate to change.
Yes, it will change the mill rate. I think the percentage was like 0.67. So not a, it sounds small, but it does have an impact. So our mill rate right now is pretty low. If I remember right, it's 7.58, I think.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to track your question. What dollar figure are you trying to get to? What
One of the things that I'd like us to watch for is if there is actually some agreement in a payment in lieu of taxes, that it's actually comparable. And if they pay nothing, then I would be in favor of writing a letter asking them to be a good neighbor and actually pay the taxes that the previous owner did and the future owner may.
yep.
So when do the people in the UT get their tax bill? In the summertime?
Yeah, summertime, late summer, we usually have to pay, I believe, in September, October.
So this transfer happened after April 1st, so it won't really impact anything till April 1st of '25. And after that, you'll be able to track to see just what this parcel will pay. So just, referring back to the email that Dave put together, even though the property sold for $40-some million, it was only valued at $6.4 million. So that's what comes off the tax rolls, that $6.4 million. The impact is, 2/3 of 1%, like Dave said. So if you adjust the mill rate by that, if you had a $100,000 property in the UT, you would pay an extra $5.09 in your taxes. But that's why I was trying to figure out your point. Your point's actually tracking next year to see what the impact is as far as whether or not they make a payment in lieu of taxes, or if Maine Revenue sends them a tax bill. That would be the other thing, is to see if Maine Revenue even bothers to send them a tax bill.
Yeah, my concern is, even if the retired folks across the way pay $5 more on their property tax bill, that extra $5, even though it's a small amount of money, is the cause of a multi-billion-dollar organization that should be able to afford to pay their fair share, not our citizens in the town. That's my concern.
I believe everyone should pay their fair share of taxes, including multimillionaires and billionaires, but I don't think this I'm not kind of confused by it in the sense that you said they spent $48 million to buy a $6 million property?
Sure, so that's the market. The market, they spent $44 million.
So the state valuation, is that based on tree growth?
I would assume a lot of that is tree growth.
Yeah, most of that land, probably 100% of that land they bought was in tree growth.
And as I understand, your concern, Commissioner Stetkis, is that a person that owns a house in the unorganized territories, their tax bill might go up a very small amount because of this land transfer. Because there's
Any amount.
so it's just like a nickel, you would have the same objection. And that's because it's a nonprofit that doesn't.
No.
Okay.
Everybody that owns property is required to pay property taxes.
I think Joel was looking at the principle of the thing, not the amount.
Right.
Right.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I understood your point.
If they can pay $40 million for a $6 million thing, they can pay.
But do you think that people in the unorganized territories should pay the same taxes that people that live in the organized territories do based on the mill rate? Or should they get a special
I'm not sure we're
benefit?
gonna debate apples and oranges today.
Okay. Well, I think it's a complex issue.
I think it's a good thing that we should keep an eye on to see if the state does send a tax bill or not.
Yeah, it's gonna be how they register the land with the revenue division, because they send out the property taxes, and people then will go and say, we're gonna put all of our land in tree growth, and by putting it in tree growth, their yearly taxes they're very low.
Right.
But when you take the land out of tree growth, that's when you've gotta pay the taxes at that point.
Well, and the thing about tree growth is you have to pay the all the back taxes.
Yeah, penalty.
So
Yeah.
it's a big penalty. People
Yeah.
won't pick it up.
So, this Nature Group, it's not one I'm familiar with. Nature Conservancy, as I said, they've owned land in the county for years and years and years. This is a new one, so I'm not sure what they're gonna do or what their plans are. I mean, it's within their rights to a point to put up gates and keep people out of their property. As I mentioned in the email, there's a lot of sugar houses and things beyond that exist in their own little lots, but they tap the trees in this land. So those people are gonna have, I'm sure, a legal access, a right of way, but a public, they could possibly, gate everything up and not let the public in. So it's kind of up in the air. I don't know what their plans are.
I wonder how long this has been in the works as well.
I did not know this was gonna happen until Deeds kind of passed the word.
Exactly, and the reason I wonder about that is because NECEC is having such a hard time with their own mandate of conservation that they have to do before they can actually start working on the lines again.
Yep.
So how did they have to get this done to us so quickly? We don't know the backstory.
That's true. Private land sale, basically, so.
Yeah.
It has an impact, obviously, with the amount of land being sold, but, I mean, I never got any heads up it was gonna happen. Actually, the land along Cold Stream was privately held, and then that was given to the state. So that was another large parcel of land that left the tax rolls into being non-taxable.
Well, any other questions on this, this budget? The UT budget? I think we're all set.
Okay, sounds good.
Do they have a signature sheet?
If something comes to mind, we will have a resolution and we can tackle it again then.
All the ones they have, but we can use these here and use that as signature sheet.
Our next
Just have-
workshop is report from the ACO Study Committee. Now, you have a report out, so this is the final report?
Well, this is probably not the final report. This is a report to maybe gauge what the county would like to do next. So in your packets, there's a couple, 2.5-page write-up. I included the list of people that have participated in the 2 meetings that we've had. Just as a reminder, this goes back to a September request from the town of Norridgewock. That was followed up by a request from the council in Fairfield. And initially, those requests were to see if the county would put up the money to hire an ACO that would support other ACOs. So after that first meeting, we realized that we need to do some follow-up with law enforcement to see law enforcement's role in animal control, and then maybe get some information from the Humane Society because the animal shelter was way over capacity, and that's kind of was backing up some of the issues. So we followed up with that in the second meeting. We had several ACOs, Chief Bucknam from Skowhegan, Sheriff Lancaster was here, and we heard from the Humane Society, and then, as you recall, at the last commissioners meeting, the Humane Society also gave a report out to the commissioners of their status. So my take, and this is just my observations, my take was after the presentation from the Humane Society, the entire group's focus kind of shifted. And they realized maybe the emphasis is not on hiring a county ACO, but is there something that can be done to help solve the capacity issue at the shelter? Because if the shelter is backed up, no matter how many ACOs you have, they don't have a place to take these animals. And so those were some of the takeaways. I think at the end of the summary, I basically just summarized it with this. Animal control in Somerset may not be in crisis, but is certainly beyond the capacity of the current infrastructure. One of the takeaways was municipalities should raise the amount of money they're paying for an ACO to attract better candidates. Awareness and funding for spay and neuter programs needs to be increased. One additional county employee may not be the answer, and perhaps raising funds through bonds or providing capacity support to the Humane Society may be a better use of county influence. So, that being said, I'm looking to the board as to next steps. What would you like to see us pursue in this regard?
I think on your last point, which is a very good one, we should also add municipal influence as well.
One of the attendees was Mike Watson from Cambridge, and he actually had put together the summaries after the first meeting, and, his first point was, is this a county issue? And should the county be taking on this issue? And if the county did, he had some other, thoughts and options, but I believe that came out from a couple of the people that were involved. Now, you had folks from Norwich Walk and Fairfield that were very much like, we believe the county should help in some way, but others were like, is this really a county solution? So,
I think that the Norwich Walk and Fairfield were looking at ways to help smooth out property tax impacts.
well, if you listened to the town manager from Norwich Walk, he was very much in favor of the county putting up $150,000 and spreading it throughout all the towns in the county, so there would be a tax impact to what they were talking about.
No, but it would smooth it out over the whole county rather than one town picking up a greater amount of
Right.
expense of its own.
And there was some pushback at the end of the second meeting in that regard, and even the ACOs said to the towns, the towns need to step up and pay more money.
Yeah.
I had like two takeaways from everything, and the first is to follow up on what you said, is I just think that in the world we live in, ACO issues are just a much bigger expense for towns than maybe they ever were in the past. So it's right up there with winter roads, and you just gotta spend more money.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing we can do to help that, because of what we talked about. And the second takeaway I had with respect to the county, we've given them $150,000, and I was disappointed with the lack of, they need a new building, and this money is for a new building, and I would have loved to have seen a really aggressive, I mean, they don't have a big board, I don't know how energized it is. It's a very small organization, they're not used to doing this, but you need to take some steps toward a building campaign. It seems to me there'd be a lot of community support for a community-wide animal shelter. I mean, that's usually a popular thing, and it doesn't seem like they've done really anything to get that going. They ought to be talking to builders, and they ought to find out how much it's gonna cost, and not just, the lady that spoke to us sort of seemed to say, well, somebody told me it was gonna cost a very large number, and that's as far as it went. She was like dumbstruck by that, so that was the end of the discussion. It seems to me you've got to be a little bit more energetic, maybe build the board a little bit, light a fire under everything, and get going, because they need a bigger shelter.
You did say that one of the board members was an architect or an engineer, and he was working on something for
Well,
them.
they have $150,000 of county money. They could hire a
Right.
very, they don't have to rely on some part-time volunteer who may or may not know the ins and outs of building a low-cost animal shelter. They should get it done, find somebody to talk to and get some numbers out, and then take the next step to see how you can raise the money. It seems to me that's what they ought to be doing with their money. And right now, it's sitting in a bank account at probably 0.001%, so, they're not doing anything with it.
Has anybody in here been inside that building up there?
I have not.
I have that. It's
You
a
have
small cramped building.
Well, is there any way to take one of those storage units, like Gifford's Ice Cream, one of those big storage units, putting all dry foods, blankets in there and make more room for cages and whatever inside there?
I don't know
Heated?
how they're handling that.
Well, I mean,
I know it's a small cramped
it'd
space.
be a low cost thing to have to.
They do a lot of adoption, foster care for dogs, so they just don't space for dogs.
So if they only have kennels to support 13 dogs,
Oh.
and they have control over 30 dogs on average, that means more than half are being fostered at people's houses.
Well, it's a very difficult thing to do, to undertake, it's a very difficult, all the people that work there, they deserve a lot of our thanks and credit and support. So it's really hard to sort of get beyond the day-to-day stuff and do some long-range strategic planning, but I think that's what they should be doing with our money, maybe before we give them any more. We ought to say, let's do something.
So one of the questions and points that I brought up, I had asked the question on how much money they're expecting, as somebody adopts a pet. And I'm wondering if that might be cost prohibitive where, and maybe it isn't, maybe $50 instead of $200 or whatever the price isn't gonna make much of a difference, but it would be interesting to know if we could move the animals out of there, if you could drop the rate and move the animals out of there quicker, are we actually, by trying to recover those costs, are we actually shooting ourselves in the foot? And it actually costing us more in the long run because the animals are staying there longer. Now the place is overwhelmed, and you're looking at building another building, and
I think part of the problem with the cost, the adoption fee, is that it only partially pays for the medical, which is the spade neutering and other things that may occur, and that's what they're trying to recapture. Not so much.
Right, but what I'm saying is if that animal is there for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks, and then you take the overhead that costs to actually hold that animal there for that period of time with labor costs and food and all that other sort of thing, are you actually better off, eating the cost of the spay and the neutering to move the animal out in a week or two as opposed to keeping it there for 5 weeks?
No, because I think the cost.
I don't know if anybody's looking at it from that perspective.
So,
I know what you're saying, but the cost of spade and neutering is much more than the cost of the food, which a lot of times is donated. Many of that material things are donated.
Well, I don't know, and then you got labor costs and
Fixed
heating
costs,
fuel and
yeah,
overhead.
those things. But
I don't know, it's a question more than a statement.
But those fixed costs are going to stay irrespective of whether you're moving them out quicker, because you're also bringing them in quicker and then incurring more expenses with the spade neutering. So it'd be a good exercise, but I don't think that you'll find it's.
Plus, I don't think we should be telling them how to run their business. I just think that we're giving them $50,000 a year. We ought to be looking for real concrete progress and steps toward long-term solutions, which is a bigger building, either by addition or acquiring a property and building anew. We ought to see something for our money.
I very much think we should be looking into investigating and keeping track of the sufficiency of how they're running the facility. As to Joel's question, I believe they advertised this last week the 50% off adoption thing, so it must have resonated with them.
See how fast they move up.
My question is, you're throwing $150 into a building and let people that really don't know what that building should be take care of it, is kind of a ridiculous notion to me. I also don't agree that a building's gonna help, because what are you gonna do? You're just gonna fill that building and you're not gonna have space in that one. So, more things need to be looked into to determine things, and I think one of those things is what is the efficiency of, and how the place is being run and what they're doing to.
Maybe we should all take a field trip over there, since it's county money that we're giving them, and see whether we think they need a new building or not. Because we've given them $150,000 toward a new building. And we can't ask for it back. I think we have to, I think we're kind of in for helping them out with a new building. I just think it's fair to ask them to kind of take some steps down that road, which I think they've been kind of like hit over the head with something. They're not doing anything in that. And that's, I'm sure their hands are full, and that's the reason why.
Well, they're also looking for board members. They're also looking for board members.
And, yeah.
There you go, John.
Yeah, somebody that has experience on boards.
Yeah.
One other thing is, the flip side of this is that we're talking about dogs, we're not even looking at the cat situation, which is a whole different thing. They are a domestic animal, but they're a free roam. Well, let them free roam. Everybody that picks up a cat from somewhere and thinks it's somebody else ends up taking it to the shelter. It's ridiculous. Cats will survive.
Actually, no. If they're indoor cats, they will not survive.
My grandfather used to shoot cats.
I've only lost one to an eagle when I lived there.
But irrespective of that, this is our
Yeah.
level of expertise.
Right, yeah.
And moving forward, we should probably just have this crafted as a letter and mailed out to everybody.
I actually would go over there with you, John, just find one.
I'll split it with you.
So
I haven't been there, I've talked through my, we should go there if we're talking about it, really.
I'm willing to go.
You gotta run
Anybody
that
wants to go?
cats.
I got it.
my concern is, whether it's the Humane Society or any other business or nonprofit, I'd be concerned of the perception of county overreach if you actually go in and start saying, you know, you need to run your business this way. I do understand the connection of, the county has funded and has promised $250,000 to help this. Is it feasible that, and this, you know, this is where I shoot myself in the foot every time. Is it feasible that the county could provide some sort of administrative strategic planning consulting to the board that they have to kind of help them get over that hump? Because clearly, as we witnessed, and I don't say this to speak negatively of anyone, their leadership doesn't have the capacity right now. You know, they're literally chasing dogs and cats, and they don't have the capacity to do any forward strategic planning. And if their board is limited and their leadership and directors are limited to do that, maybe the county can kind of say, hey, you know, we'd like to make sure that this money is put to the best use. Can we get in there and kind of guide them?
Are you suggesting like the next 50,000, before we give that to them, we're gonna use it ourselves to find that person and develop a plan and just, instead of in other words, saying to them, we're gonna spend the money for you to get this thing going? Is that-
That's a possibility. Somebody has to go to one of their board meetings and communicate that, and I guess, you know, I'd be willing to do that.
I can live with it. I'm happy to go with you on that.
Yeah, I'd be happy,
Okay.
But,
So,
before we spend any more money, I would take the remaining amount, which is $100,000, and put it in our own account that's dedicated for that, instead of handing it over to them. And then when they are ready to build, we can hand it over to them with interest.
Oh, I see, you dedicate that 100,000 and let it accrue interest?
Right.
Separately? Thanks,
So-
thanks.
wouldn't the typical process in this, and you can tell me this probably, be that if you're gonna build a building of any size, and it's a community-based building, like with us in St. Albans, we're going for the new fire department, you know, would it be feasible to hire an engineer at a lot less expense than 50,000 to make the plans for?
Well, I don't think we have to spend all 50, but I think if we spend, you know, whatever, it's $5,000 to get
That's what I mean, it's
a
like,
start on this.
I'm just wondering if an engineer is the way to start with this, that somebody that has experience and would know what to do.
Well, I don't want to.
And I'm not even sure even an engineer, because I mean, it's not, so the biggest hurdle is going to be, okay, what are the requirements, you know, from the state and the feds on, you know, specific things to care for animals and the space required and, you know, and water and septic and those kinds of things. I don't necessarily think the building needs to be super fancy. You could do an insulated, you know, big insulated metal building on a slab, or, you know, it doesn't have to be some
Yeah.
fancy architectural thing, I don't believe.
Well, where I would start is just like calling up the Waterville Humane Society and said, who did your building? You know?
Yeah.
It's just, I'm sure there's a whole industry of people that build these buildings. And some of them are Cadillacs and some of them are Pintos.
Well, that's a good point. We could call up the Waterville Humane Society as well as the Kennebec County Humane Society in Augusta, and ask who did their buildings.
They have a new one? or-
They have a new one, Schumann's, Charlie's Auto paid for it.
But it's not, you know, get the train leaving the station, we can do a lot. I'm all for, we've committed, we have another $100,000. We're not talking about raising any more money, we've already just said we would. We can say to them, we're gonna keep this money, we're gonna help you spend it, because we're gonna actually find somebody that's gonna give you some information and blah, 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 and get the train going down the road. So we can start using the $150,000 that we've already given you for its intended purpose. Right?
And help avert an emergency. Time to get up.
Time to get up. Time to get off the sofa.
Okay, I think we.
So we'll go to a meeting and,
So I think I'll contact Bonnie to see when their next meeting is and let the commissioners know, see who wants to attend with me. And just basically have a conversation with their board about how the county can provide some strategic support and technical support. I'll also draft a letter to send back to the committee and back to the council in Fairfield and to the selectmen in Norwood to say what we've discovered. But I'll let you see that letter before I send it out to them. Sorry. Okay?
all right, thank you. And number 3 is the fall 2024 matching grant summary.
So in your packets, you should have received basically the one paragraph on each of the 13 applications that were received by the county before the deadline. The review committee did meet yesterday, and they gave their thoughts and comments. We also had a really good turnout from applicants. Both representatives from each application were invited to come. At least half of them sent somebody in person or by Zoom. So it was good. I think the committee was benefited by hearing more about each project and kind of filling in some of the blanks there. So rather than going through these one at a time, I'm going to assume that maybe you've had a chance to look at some of these. Can you just tell me what ones you may be concerned about or have questions about or need more information? Almost half of them requested less than the $15,000 amount. There were several small requests in here.
I just wanted to add, because I was there yesterday, the committee, I don't know if this is in here, my partner with you, but we approved every one of these but one. The consensus of the committee was in favor of every request except for I think the last one.
The one from Anson for the Clark brothers.
Yeah, the Clark brothers.
Yeah.
And what was the reason for the Clark
The
Brothers?
reason for the Clark one is it's not a nonprofit, it's a privately owned business that these guys are trying to get off the ground. We thought it was more appropriate for a loan.
Yeah.
And it's, we had the same thing with the chiropractor. It's like you give money to one business and the people down the street are saying, well, that doesn't seem fair, and I agree with them. And so I think we as a committee just said.
Yeah, the concern that was brought up, and I appreciate you reminding me about the loan, is maybe to recommend that these brothers talk to Christian
Yeah.
Savage and maybe go through SEDC. What they're doing is, and really they both work for separate businesses, so they're just trying to get this idea off the ground. It's the old Anson Town office that really could use a facelift on the outside. They're in the process of buying it, so they're making a owner finance deal with the current owners, and they want to fix up the outside. They want to do most of the work themselves, and they're asking for the grant to buy materials. The one thing that I did explain to the brothers when we talked about this was the real risk here from the county's perspective is that there's no guarantee that you won't turn around and sell this building in 2 years and make a profit, and this $15,000 from the county would essentially go towards your profit. And that was brought up by another member of the committee yesterday, and so I can't say, I think I agree with what the committee said, that maybe steer them toward a loan through SEDC rather than a grant for this. So any other questions on any other?
I have a question on 24-6, on that upgrade to comply with COA. I'm assuming that every other town within the county is probably under that same compliance.
So you're referring to the town of Skowhegan's request to help essentially with their IT and email upgrades that are
They're asking, right,
required.
for the email, Office
Yeah.
365. and-
Yeah. So there's a little bit of backstory on this as well. As you all know, Dawn de Blasi is the town manager in Skowhegan now, and so she knows the capacity that the county has for IT. So she reached out to Pavel and myself. We met with her, Steve Gavoni, one of their selectmen, and Jeff Hewitt before he left, just to kind of walk through their IT situation. And their overall IT situation is not good. And frankly, it's been a situation that has probably needed to be addressed for several years, and now it's reaching that point. Primarily with Jeff Hewitt's retirement, because Jeff was the guy that kind of knew where everything was and held everything together. And now him being gone, they kind of need to move forward with some things. Pavel, to his credit, did an excellent job of writing up basically a 3-pager and said, here are the things that if I was you, I'd be concerned about. So what they want to do in Skowhegan is take that list from Pavel, turn it into an RFP to put out for an IT services upgrade. Now, while we were having the conversation about this, the town manager was saying, well, and this is going to be tough on the budget. I don't know where we're going to get the money for this. So I opened my mouth and said, well, you know, the county is trying to help people with community benefit. So that's kind of where all this originated from. So Jeff Hewitt put together this application. It was pretty bare bones. And I guess they assumed that I knew what their situation was. So here's what the committee said yesterday. There's a little bit of a rub about giving money directly to municipalities if it doesn't seem like there's a big community benefit to it. You know, you got a couple applications in here where buildings that are owned by the town are asking for heating upgrades. They could see some benefit to that, to the community, especially if that building is used as a community center and so forth. The only stretch that I saw in this Skowhegan IT upgrades was public safety. I mean, they need to upgrade their stuff so that they're more cyber secure. So is it an issue that the county should help with a matching grant, or is it an issue that they should utilize their own resources for? Now, Brian Billier, who is the code officer in Skowhegan, he was on the call yesterday for the review committee. I'm glad he was, because it's very helpful. He's kind of inherited this from Jeff. And he was unaware that Skowhegan's TIF revenues could be used to help this. He just became aware of that earlier this week. So he and I are going to have a meeting on Friday to talk about, you know, the availability of TIF revenues that might be able to go towards some of these costs. So again, similar to the Clark brothers, there may be another avenue for them to do this other than using the county funds. So for me, it's kind of a balance, like, okay, we're trying to help towns, you know, not have to raise too much from property taxes through these grant programs, but there's got to be a public benefit, a public safety benefit, a community benefit to whatever that project is. So,
Although the community benefit law does say that property tax reduction is a legitimate purpose of spending the money.
that's correct. Yeah.
And I think we take that into, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's okay to sprinkle this money over towns. Because some people say, why are you giving money to towns? They can just raise it through taxation. They don't need, but that's part of the deal, is we do try to help them.
Right.
A little bit. It's not really going to reduce anybody's taxes, but it might.
Well, it helps them
reduce the increase.
It helps them get projects done.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of a grant, is you get a project done that you're pushing down the road because you don't have the funding ahead of time. That's important to state, you know, over and over again, that no matter how you look at it, community benefit dollars are not tax dollars. They're not like TIF, where TIF is property taxes. Community benefit is a separate ball of wax altogether. So
It's bribe money.
understood.
And all these applicants understand that they don't get the money until the project is complete.
That's correct. They understand the matching portion of it. So any other questions on the applications?
So the committee will meet again to determine, or did they determine last night which ones they would approve?
So like Commissioner Alsop said, the committee was in favor. They were a little reluctant on the Skowhegan IT. They were definitely a no on Clark Enterprises. But everything else they considered was worthy of funding as requested. One of the things that we're learning as we morph our way through this community benefit review process is the last time in the spring, the committee took the initiative to set dollar amounts, where they asked for 15, well, maybe it's not worth 15, maybe it's worth 10. So we didn't do that this time at the committee level. We're going to leave the dollar amounts to the commissioners. So at this point, I would say you probably on the next meeting on the 18th, if you're okay with it, I'd put all of these on separate resolutions, and that way you work your way through each one in a meeting. I don't see there's any reason to go back to a review committee at this point.
That makes sense.
No, it's good. We can do it that way.
Okay.
Each one separate.
So what about the particular one where there is the opportunity of a different avenue to get the funds? Is it, we're looking at approve it, and if it turns out that they don't need it, then they don't get it? Is that,
Yeah.
what is the?
I think that's kind
What's
of
the thinking in that?
I think that's kind of up to you commissioners to decide collectively.
But won't we know by then, by
I was
the
gonna say-
18th, whether or not they can use their own TIP money to do this?
We should,
Hopefully we'll know by Friday.
Oh, okay.
We should know.
we should know that, so
We'll have that information, good.
we can determine that. Okay, very good, thank you. There's no public hearings, public comment to allow members of the public to comment or reserve time to speak on an upcoming agenda item. I see no members of the public per se. You're welcome to. As a member of the public, in spite of your hat that you're wearing. Okay, administrator report.
Well, in addition to the information I provided you in the packets, just a couple things to make you aware of. So, looking at the status of our budget committee, you have several members that are getting done in this month in December, some that need to be renewed, some new members that need to be selected. So, commissioners for District 1, District 3, District 4, and District 5 will have to attend caucuses in January. So again, the caucus is at a particular selectmen's meeting. I will get you the dates and the information where they'll be, and I'll get you all the paperwork ahead of time that you'll need to have signed and brought back. We do have, I'm confident that we have just about every vacancy filled except one in Commissioner Alsop's hometown of Cornville right now, so we need to work on that. So, but other than that, so I want to make you aware of that coming up. I'll have more information for you at the next meeting. And I had asked in an email to discuss the January, February meeting schedule. It's a little bit wonky with the holidays. You have the first day of January is a Wednesday, and so do you just move that ahead to the 8th? I will be out of town in mid-late February, and so I didn't want to, put a whole lot on Leanne, although she's very capable of running a meeting. So I wanted to hear your feedback. The chair has already given me some of his feedback, and he can probably share his thoughts. But I was seeing what you thought of rearranging the January, February schedule.
Well, I'd like to move our meeting to the Thursday, if everybody's schedule can comply with that. That way, because we have 5 members, elected individuals who need to be sworn in, and the quicker they're sworn in, the quicker they can resume their roles. And then go back to January 15th.
So you're talking about January 2nd?
Thursday. January 15th.
Okay,
And then we're on our regular schedule.
okay.
And January 15th brings us to the Alsop 3 weeks.
So if you do maintain that schedule, that's fine. It actually works out better for Tracy and the warrants, so that you have the regular warrant schedule going
Right.
forward. Just be aware, I won't be here for the second meeting in February, so you'll have to live
But
with
Leanne
that.
will be, and she
I can make sure that
handled us
Leanne's
well
here.
before.
And looking
That's right.
further down the road, SIP and I we do our snowbird thing, so
Who's that?
you're gone, I'm gone in March.
I'm going in April.
Okay.
You
After
can
that
work
makes
around
it
for the
big.
budget, so.
I have that horrible Zoom budget meeting I'm looking for.
Well, we'll try to go over that as best we can.
Yeah. jump on Zoom budget meeting.
So,
What's that?
Thursday, the 2nd of January?
I can adjust to get that in here.
I can do that.
Okay, and we'll do the same time, 3 o'clock, or?
Yeah, or 2.
So, Mr. Johnson, Commissioner Johnson had a good idea. Since we're trying to make sure that the commissioners as employees are up to date on some of their training, and we're having trouble getting that training through the collective internet sources that you have, it may not be a bad idea to schedule a 2 o'clock meeting and just do all the training prior to your meeting. And just do it right here on these, and it's the same. That way we accomplish that purpose.
Well,
So,
we've already got that training.
if you've already got training, you can show up at 3 o'clock. So,
A lot of training to get in an hour. I want to make light of the,
well, we'll do I mean,
Sexual harassment for you should go along.
there are 2 harassment trainings. One is for supervisors, one's for employees. We'll give you the employees one. It's only 30 minutes, so.
John knows what
but
he's
aren't there there's other trainings?
There are, but the level of their requiredness starts with harassment, works its way down. So we can work, I mean, if the board's agreeable to it, we can work our way through it, so.
I don't want my co-commissioner here to,
DEI is optional.
I'm worried you're going to create a hostile working
So they-
skill.
Phone isn't though.
So the photo is different, right? So the 2 newly elected folks, you need to sign your FOIA certificates. All you have to do is just read the frequently asked questions, and I can provide that to you prior to the next meeting.
Online.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, you touched on something that I have never done before, because I came to work here in an odd year where there wasn't an election. So what's this business of swearing in elected officials in January?
Oh, well, it's going to be, we assume our positions, first day of January, the first business day, and we'll need a,
Didymus Justice.
not a notary, but a.
Didymus.
Dedimus.
Dedimus.
Yeah.
Can't get Karen anymore. Who's?
Correct. So we're thinking Davida, who works down here at
Yeah. Is she a Dedimus?
Lexier's office. So this has been going around the building already with the elected officials, and they were kind of doing it on their own. So this is new to me that we're going to try to do it collectively in one meeting. Is that traditionally what
We've
we've
done that
done?
before in one meeting. I know that the first year I was commissioner, I did it on my own because it hadn't really established itself. And it's grown since that, but
Okay.
we don't have that many people.
I was doing
Time doing
that. I never went to the county commissioner meeting to get sworn in as a probate judge.
You're special.
Well, no, nobody did.
Well, I think the only ones that do it during the meeting are the commissioners. I don't think.
Yeah, we just do ourselves. We don't need anybody
I
else.
don't think the
We
probate.
do it before the meeting in your office.
Okay. So you still need a Didymus?
Yeah.
Still need that.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we don't need the probate judge and the register.
I was just thinking, if we're gonna have a dedimus, we might as well do them all at once, to let them know that they can.
Okay.
Well, you
That's two.
could tell them it's an option for
Yeah.
them, maybe they'll do it on.
It's available to them.
I'll get this sorted out, but thank you.
You've got it. Don't forget the sandwich plate and
So that's why we want the sandwich plate.
That's all I had for my report.
the
So we're definitely at 2 o'clock on the 2nd,
Sure,
is that correct?
yeah. And we'll do some training at 2 o'clock on the 2nd.
training.
That's not a DEI.
And we'll have our standard election of officers as well
Yeah.
on that. Okay, so, I forgot, new agenda items, commissioners only.
All set now.
Thank you. All right. And so I can move on to finance reporting.
We're down to 5 openings countywide. Doing good on that. Actually, jail is over by 1.
First time.
First time. When it comes to the finance side of the house, it's gonna sound like a broken record. Nothing really outstanding to report other than that all the departments are still favorable to budget, so no abnormal, finance occurrences have occurred yet, which is a good thing.
You're
I
expecting?
said, yeah. We're only through 5 months out of the 12, so give it time.
I see that we have some department heads here. I'll start with Pavel.
Thanks. I just want to give you some updates. So we continue working on the intercom project for the jail. We're expecting to get the parts in January. So sometimes hopefully like in January, February, that project will be completed. We finally received the Starlinks. It was kind of like they didn't have them in stock, but we received them like a week ago. So we're gonna proceed with the install too for the multiple sites to get finally interconnection between the sites as a last resort backup. And we're working on the core network project still for the main servers for the county.
And thank you for your help with Thomas Galhegan on
You're
that
welcome.
project.
You're welcome.
Any questions? All set? Thank you.
Thank you.
Sheriff?
Patrol had 415 calls of service last week. We're extremely busy with 61 crashes. We've had 15 fatals so far this year. Our last one was on Monday.
You had one today.
What's that?
I believe you had one today in Madison.
Yeah, we had a head-on coming down here. I don't know what that, if that has been deemed a fatal or not.
It was a fatal report.
Yeah, that was, I think it was Monday.
Was that Monday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Monday. As Deputy Gross from Hancock County was killed, he was struck by a vehicle a couple of years ago, I think it was a year ago or so. And one of those issues was that it was foggy. So it's made me think, and I put in for a grant for from the Jeff Parola Foundation, and today we received, and we will be issuing out, they're called Guardian Angel Lights. If you see them, they'll be on the deputy's lapel when they get out of the car. They hit the button and it flashes blue or white, so that give our deputies an extra level of protection on the road. We have 3 graduating from the academy in 2 weeks, so that will be a little bit of a relief. And the county administrator and I will be testifying in front of MDOC tomorrow afternoon for some standards that they're trying to implement that could potentially cost the counties significant amount of money. So we'll be testifying against those standards.
Questions, concerns? Cars?
Yeah, no, I'm still. We have a pile lifter someplace, maybe in different levels, but
So, nothing,
some are trickling in slowly, and we're trying to navigate through all of that. Also, I wanted to say, on the 10th, I think the county administrator told you this last time, but we're going to be starting we meet with the superintendent of Madison on December 11th. I do, and the town manager, to implement the SRO program for Madison.
So just to answer your question about the vehicles, the last time I talked with Height, there's 4 remaining Tahoes from the 24s that are coming in. 2 of those have the recall that's required to replace the engine. And so those recalls are being...
Not much of a recall. I would say.
Engine? The engine, yeah. So...
The whole thing, or just the block?
So there were over 400 police package Tahoes nationwide that suffered this recall. My assumption is it's a computer issue, and so to make sure everything listens to each other, they got to replace all the components. It's easier to drop the engine out and put a new one in. So the 2 that are having that done are at the port, so they're not here yet. They're probably in Boston or Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And then the other 2 are still in the process of being delivered. So.
okay. Any other questions for going forward. Mike?
Just quickly, because she has another commitment at her current job in a few more weeks, I just want to take a minute to introduce Sarah Bickford to you. Sarah's currently the Deputy Director at Franklin County EMA. She's been there for about 2.5 years. Sarah's coming on board with us within the next couple of weeks to fill the EMA Deputy Director's position. She also has history in the state of Utah doing some environmental quality work and has experience working with AmeriCorps. So she lives in Hamden. She's ready to move back to Somerset County and looking forward to having her on board. So I just wanted to introduce her so she can get out of here and make strong by 5 o'clock, which she's not going to do, but it'll be close.
Very good.
Welcome, thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Paul.
Hi. Did you say anything? And Dave, I think we've,
You've heard a lot from me, everything is pretty good.
very good. All right. All set. We can go on to new business, resolution 24-231 to approve the hiring of Pamela Grant as legal secretary in Somerset District Attorney's Office.
So move.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Let's go. Resolution 24-232 to approve the hiring of Sarah Bickford as deputy EMA director.
So move.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? To go. Resolution 24-233 to approve the hiring of Jacob Greco as a dispatcher at the Somerset County Communications Center.
So move.
Second.
Discussion, to go, thank you. And resolution 24-234 to approve the hiring of Anthony McNally, Scott Smith as full-time corrections officers at the Somerset County Jail.
So move.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Yes, it's a go. Resolution 24-235 to authorize the posting of an assistant shift supervisor position at the Somerset County Jail.
Second.
And discussion, questions, all in favor? It's a go. Capital Reserve Expenditures, Resolution 24-236 to approve the transfer of $13,291.18 from account G11400911, Distributors Opioid Settlement, to E268458008240, MAT Sublocade 2025.
So move.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Resolution 24-237 to approve the transfers of $7,925 from account E6599, the IT Citrix, and $7,576.58 from account E6603, other hardware, to account G12404306, IT APC, to cover the cost of new battery backup for the courthouse server replacement project.
So move.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Good job.
Unorganized territory. Resolution 24-238 to approve and forward to the state the FY26 Somerset Unorganized Territory Budget and FY26 UT TIF budget.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? David?
We need to include the second tip budget, so if we put an S,
Yes.
that's the NECEC
TIFs.
budget.
Budgets.
Budgets.
Yep.
Budgets. There we go. All in favor? That's a go. Warrants, Resolution 24-239 to approve the treasurer's warrant for general fund, Somerset County Jail, unorganized territories, and TIF tax revenue for a total amount of $1,027,711.
Try it again.
$27,711.70.
So move.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Miscellaneous discussion items, commissioners only. Executive session. Title I, Section 4056A, personal probate judge compensation. So,
But there was something that you mentioned, I think, in an email, Tim, that we're going to discuss the matter. I think the discussion of how we're going to pay county employees with contract or otherwise is not really an executive session issue, but I agree that the probate judge, that obviously is. I don't know if you want to, and the point I'm making, I'm not going to go into the executive session because I'm recusing myself. So if you're going to discuss the other thing outside of, I would be here for that, but not for, I don't know if I'm making any sense here at all.
I think I follow you.
Yeah.
And it's really up to you whether you want to stay for the discussion about probate judge or not.
Yeah.
But assuming that the commissioners reach an agreement on the probate judge, then when they come out of executive session, they would have to make a motion for that amount of dollars in public. So they could then continue the discussion afterwards.
I was just talking about the policy issue of whether or not we're going to have contracts for elected officials, because I think you mentioned that.
I did, and I was going to bring that up in executive session, but I agree with you, it could be done in public session.
Well,
This probably should be a public resolution,
So-
that portion of it.
So if you'd like, you can back up and make that a commissioner discussion item to do right now.
Okay, why don't we do it right now?
Let's do it right now.
Okay.
Okay. So, all these people are,
Stay here.
you guys can still leave. So to that point, and I think I understand some of the history of it, you have 4 positions: the register of probate, the probate judge, the register of deeds, and the treasurer, that are all elected, and they are under certain various and sundry contracts. And then you have the sheriff who is elected and the chief deputy who's not elected under contract, and then you have the county administrator under contract. Having talked with all of the other county administrators, and I think I got at least a dozen responses, nobody else contracts elected officials, period. The only people that are contracted are the administrators. And so I think I understand the history of this. You had some issues with people that were elected that may or may not have been able to perform their duties or whatnot. So what I'm suggesting is, since right now you have probate judge, probate register, register of deeds, and treasurer either not contracted, the treasurer is not contracted right now. It's an odd thing. It's bifurcated, and we'll talk about that too. Probate judge is at the end of his contract, per se. He was just reelected. Probate register has a contract. She's at the end of that term. She was just reelected. Deeds, you have a newly elected register of deeds, and there's no contract with there, although previous registers of deeds have had contracts. Probate. I recommend just setting an amount of dollars you want to pay the judge, and just don't worry about a contract. Probate register. Determine what you think is fair, again, based on her experience, what she's been paid, what she's been doing for the last 24 years. Don't worry about a contract. Legally, these contracts with elected officials don't amount to anything, because they're elected. They don't really report to you, or me, or anybody, other than the voters. So that's my recommendation with probate. Just move forward, pick a dollar amount, starting January 1st, pick that dollar amount, and that's what they go forward with. Now your 2 bifurcated positions. I learned that from Commissioner Alsop, that word. You have the treasurer, and the treasurer, as an elected treasurer, receives a stipend. And that individual also has another job as the AP person, handles all accounts payable. So we pay that person, Tracy, we pay her X amount of dollars a year to do her job, but also, since she's the elected treasurer, we pay her a stipend. History tells me that this goes all the way back to Phil Roy,
as one of the commissioners that kind of put this idea in place, to have these two separate positions. Then we went through the issues we had with Register of Deeds, and so we've kind of mirrored that over the years, where you had a stipend for the elected Register of Deeds, and then that person was also paid a salary to oversee the office, to be the department head. You know, in the vacancy that we've had over the last couple of years, Tanya has been doing the office manager job, and so she just recently got elected to the Register of Deeds. So I'm recommending that, like I said with probate, get rid of the contracts. I'm recommending get rid of the contracts with Register of Deeds and the treasurer, and just simply say, this is what we're going to pay this position. I'm not a big fan of the bifurcated positions. Just pick what you're going to pay them. If you want to continue to have a separate stipend for an elected person that does a job that may or may not be directly related to the other job, I think it's complicated. So, I've said my piece.
Patrick?
What happens though if that person's not elected again? The work they're doing is not really related to the elected position, it's related to, what happens if that some other person is re-elected, do they lose everything?
No, right now that, like you said, right now because they're split, if Tracy chooses not to run for treasurer,
Right.
she would still have the option of her AP job. And the same with Tanya. Tanya would still have the option of being the department head of the
office manager.
registry. The office manager, yeah. So.
Yeah.
So that may be a good point for keeping them separate.
I like keeping them separate, but I like getting rid of the contracts.
I'm confused. So you're saying keeping them separate means we pay like the deeds a stipend plus without a contract?
The deeds would have a salary, and then the office manager would have a salary. They could be both one and the same person. The elected treasurer would have a salary, and the accounts payable position would have a salary, and that can also be one and the same person.
So this way we can have them as employees gathering up employee benefits like vacation time and so forth under their contract as administrators. But as an elected official, just a straight elected official without a contract, I don't think, do you?
That portion would not fall into any of that stuff.
Yeah, I guess. They just declare their own vacation time.
So just a
No, they don't get vacation
clarification,
time.
the
Like us, we don't get vacation.
stipend is part of the contract or right at current time?
Going back to, and again, this is kind of separate from probate, going back to deeds and treasurer, in the history books, there are old contracts that mentioned the stipend amount for that position. Laura Price had a 4-page contract that was both the stipend and her work in the register. It was very convoluted, so.
Well, you're talking to the 12 other administrators. Are there other counties that have just the old-fashioned sort of register of deeds that gets paid whatever was paid the year before, when she takes or he takes office and then?
I believe many of them pay them.
That's sort of the old way of doing it.
Because that's the way Victoria's paid. Victoria's not been given a stipend. It is assumed that she's elected and to do the job.
Doesn't she have a contract? I think
She used to, or she does right now, but I'm recommending that we don't worry about a contract.
But if she doesn't have a contract, then does she look to the employee manual to determine how much vacation time she gets this year? Or does
So
she?
this has bounced back and forth, and Patrick may help with this. She has explained to me that originally, and again, I don't like talking about personnel in public session, but she has explained to me that when she was first elected, she really didn't have to worry about earning vacation or sick time. She just took the time that she needed.
Yeah.
And I believe that's the way it was with the Register of Deeds. and that kind of led to a issue.
That got a big problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where we are.
So there's, because of the tenure of the register of probate, this whole idea of her accruing sick or vacation is new to her. And because she kind of sets the schedule based on the needs of the office, you know, she doesn't need it per se. Again, I'm speaking for what she's told me.
So was this, the contract situations when they were put in, was it kind of as a safeguard to ensure that we could do something if the person who's in that like position starts doing things that, you know, are detriment to the county, or, I mean?
Yeah, we had an elected official that basically went on permanent vacation. So, you know, close to it, and that was a problem.
So I believe that previous, you know, administration and previous boards thought that this was a way to do it. I had one.
It was also vetted with the lawyers.
Well, understood, but, what was it, Penobscot tried to do this as well, and they vetted it, and their lawyer said, contract's not worth the paper it's written on.
Not the contract, but the separation of positions.
Oh, that, yeah, again, I understand the reason for that.
Yeah.
But as far as, I mean, I think we're talking about two different issues here. We're talking
Yeah.
about separating positions with different salaries for the same person and contracts.
Right.
I don't think we need to go forward with contracts.
I get a little concerned, I mean, even though they're not under contract, if we don't go, and I think I said in the email that I don't agree with them having the contract, but at the same time, do they have to adhere to and follow all policy and procedure? Do we have disciplinary capability if they cost us $100,000 here and there? I mean.
So I hate to break it to you, but this is the same issue with every elected road commissioner and clerk and treasurer in the state of Maine. They don't work for you. They work for the people. And the only way to discipline them is recall them, unless you have a recall ordinance. And, you know, we've lived through it for the last couple of years in Madison. So that's the rub, you know, you hope that you can elect people that everybody's able to work together and do well. You don't, I should say, you don't have to pay them a certain amount, but you do have to pay them, so.
This is all signed. That's your timesheet.
No, that's
Now you're blocked.
transfer.
I know, they've recessed me, and Commissioner Alsop has recessed into signing.
We're not gonna resolve all this today, but
We do need to resolve it by January 1st.
yeah, so we ought to think about it.
Okay.
I mean, I agree with you, we shouldn't, elected officials should not have contracts. Whether we should split the positions as we have and have a contract on one side and not on the other.
We can put it on the workshop next time.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
interesting stuff.
there is a motion on to go into executive session.
Well, you motioned, but you didn't vote on it.
It was seconded by John, so we're voting on it now.
Yeah.
And so we are going into executive session?
Remember, I'm not a fighter.
Are you going into executive session?
We're going into executive session.
All right, I appreciate it, Tim.
So we are in.
They did. Okay, I need a copy of it tomorrow. They're all over right here.
I am not gonna sit down in this executive session for reasons I previously explained. I do want to sign everything I can sign.
You, well, I understand you're recusing yourself, so you're gonna recuse yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll leave this here, and I'll take my coffee.
See you guys.
Budget's a deal.
Who signed their name? Hold on.
Yeah.
When double vision got hold of me.
All right, so. the office. He signed a lot of the things. I don't think he signed that
Feed the
yet.
home, something.
I was just looking at, we have some Fairfield.
So if you saw this, I emailed it out. This was Rob Washburn's response when I had sent out the survey that was done by Aroostook County.
I'm collecting, it's still on, so,
Their executive session.
I know, but we're not all here, so. Once he gets in, Sip will
transfusions since he's been down there for 2 months. And he's, December 14th, he's coming home no matter what, to die. If the things aren't looking better. I was at my father's today, and he looks like he's on his last legs. He thinks he's got days to go, so, a rough day today.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Don't forget your briefcase.
Oh, yeah. That's my head.
So we are out of executive session, and our motion is to provide the judge of probate salary for 2025 at 47.5, and all the other compensations the same.
So,
Second.
Right, yes, so moved, second. All in favor? There you go.
Thank you very much.
And this will be the workshop, this whole discussion of elected officials.
Yep, yep.
and resolution on it too.
We'll have a resolution on that, after the workshop, we'll have a resolution.
That would probably be good, since you're heading toward January 1st after that. And you don't meet until we have the swearing-in party on January 2nd.
Yeah, you know, you take,
I like that word,
you take
party.
over this spot right, you know that, right?
For just a second.
Okay.
That I remember from selectment meetings. So.
Okay.
I know when we.
I hope you all.
We need a motion?
Share.
We need a motion?
To adjourn, actually, you don't need a motion to adjourn, but you may do so.
Stay if you want to, Joe.
Okay.
All in favor, they leave, all opposed, they stay.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
I didn't get an email from my son, so,
Yeah, no beers?
no. They'll be in there about an hour now.
Yeah.
You didn't stay out there long enough.
This is what Scott usually gets his.
It was 4:35 when that buck stepped out in front of him,
Yeah.
in the field.
Yeah, daylight's done at like 4:21.
Like that one shot would be right when the warden's right off the road. You know that.
Well, you know how close I live to the jail.
Like,
It's not gonna cost you much of gas money.
the guy must have qualified, we'll took him one shot.
The problem is I have to go up to with my handgun and finish off. Sometimes.
I had a couple of days, I'm not like horror, but I'm gonna gear up for coyote season.
Well, next year I'm not taking my weapon over early, I'm gonna,
I get it.
I love muzzle loading.
Yeah.
I got a 26.
The snow, I love.
It's not snow. Well, it's freaking ice out there.
Oh, it is.
There's nothing snow out. Oh my goodness, you can't, I mean, they can hear you for.
You can't even use that.
I can get
Can't even go over the pickup line, right?
Yeah, right.
It's not my stand, I walk in the field next door, which is the sun
Yeah.
from the north side,
Oh,
faces
yeah.
south, and it's all grass.
Yeah. Think about taking my ride lawnmower out and blow the snow off my lawn, it'll bring right in.
Oh, that's right.
It's like the only green grass around.
Well, thanks, gentlemen.
Yeah, they come.
Good job. I got a 23 from it.
Each plant,
How do you do?
each plant, they that's seeded every night. Yeah.
I mean, if you really want to plant something that they'll eat even in January or February, is actually Brussels sprouts.
Really? Absolutely.
They end up this tall.
How hard it is to keep those in the garden if they get
Oh, it's on
frosted too.
Once they hit, oh yeah.
The deer people get to pick them. Yeah, that's every time.
Yeah, well, so how do you plant them so that it, here with the snow, plant, you cut the fence around them,
Yeah.
July, August?
I mean, are they gonna come into your garden or wherever if you don't?
No. I don't plant guys anymore. They hate it. I even had, which that's kind of the objective.
I mean, that's why I got trees, that's why I got all the way.
You probably heard that Megan did not meet the threshold of becoming
Oh, I wondered, I had not heard that.
the nomination for
So did they caucus today? or-
last night. They had a
Okay.
banquet, they go to a banquet, they caucus. And I did hear that it was close.
Yeah.
No cigar.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I wondered what would have happened if she did get that. Would Frank Griffin automatically move up to?
no.
To
Frank
district?
Griffin would have to go to a joint Somerset, Kennebec County caucus, Democratic caucus,
I see.
and then be chosen from there.
I see.
Actually, to be chosen, nominated, if you won the election, because somebody else might come in,
Interesting, okay.
that would be sent to the governor.
Oh, wow, okay. I'm wondering how that
It's a
process is. Yeah.
We'll see how it all works. Yeah. Hey there, I'm just leaving the building, but I gotta stop and get gas for the tractor. So, oh, that's right, in the background, yes, okay, I didn't recognize it. Oh, jeez, all right, so, to a Castro, wonderful. Hey, all right, okay, I'll swim right by, yeah, bye. See ya.